I've been in two arenas practically all my whole life. The first one had dirt floors, metal rails, and 1,800 pounds of livestock that wanted me off its back. The second one had conference tables, fluorescent lights, and a room full of people all wanting the same thing. And here's what both of those arenas taught me that I never got from any leadership course: the bull doesn't care about your credentials. Hi, everybody. I'm Shar, and I've spent 20 years riding bulls and 25 years managing fleets, and most of that time I was the only outlier in the room. And this is something I wish someone had told me a lot earlier in my career. Now, let me take you back to when I started in rodeo. I had been training. I had spent time in the practice pens, and I was learning my technique. I had watched every rider I could study. I climbed into that chute thinking, I can do this. But the bull didn't care. It didn't care that I had practiced. It didn't care that if I was prepared or not. It didn't care that I was the only woman behind the chutes who I loved or how I even identified. And it didn't even matter that some people in the stands thought that I had no business being there. The gate opened, and for 8 seconds, the only thing that mattered was that I called that gate and whether I could ride. Not whether I deserved to be there, or not whether I looked like the other riders. It was whether I had the courage to commit and ride. That's it. That's the whole thing. Now, here's where this gets specific for outliers. Most of us have spent our careers in rooms where the first question isn't, what can you do? It's, why are you here? You walk in and you can feel it. The skepticism before you've even said a word. The assumption that you need to prove something the other people in the room never had to prove. And so we usually do one of two things. Some of us spend all of our energy on credentials, the certifications, the degrees, the titles, the resume, trying to build a case on paper so strong that nobody can question whether we belong or not. Then other people spend all their energy managing perceptions, watching how they talk, how they dress, how they show up, trying to be acceptable enough that the room relaxes. Now, neither one of those is wrong. Both are survival strategies that make complete sense given what outliers face. But here's what bulls taught me. Credentials don't ride the bull. Perception management doesn't ride the bull. You ride the bull. Now, I want to tell you about a moment in my fleet career. I was the outlier on a team that had been doing this work for decades. I walked in with my data and knew my numbers. I knew exactly where we were bleeding efficiency and what needed to change. And there was this guy in the room that's been there for years who had an opinion about everything I said. We've all been there. I kept waiting for someone to ask him to back it up, but nobody did, because he had more years than anyone else in that room. And sometimes in rooms like that, time in the seat counts for more than what's actually coming out of your mouth. I could have gotten frustrated. I could have argued harder. I could have justified myself with all my credentials and certificates. Instead, I did the thing that the bull taught me. I kept riding. I showed up the next week with more data, and the week after that, I stopped trying to win that guy over and started letting the results talk. Within months, the changes I pushed for drove a 23% improvement in fleet availability, the highest utilization enterprise-wide. Now, he didn't apologize. That's not how it ever works, and I didn't expect it. But the room changed. That's the bull. It doesn't care about the argument you made before the gate opened. It only cares what happens in the 8 seconds after. Now, here's what I'm not saying. I'm not saying credentials don't matter. They matter. Your certifications, your training, your expertise, that's your iron. That's the foundation. You don't get in the chute without it. And I'm not saying the bias isn't real. It's real. That double standard is real. The rooms that were built without you in mind are real. Now, I've told you about Cherie DeVoe, who spent 22 years working in a sport where only 18 women had ever saddled a Derby starter. In 89 years of trying, that's not a coincidence. That's a system. What I am saying is this: the bull is the work. The bull is the one thing in the arena that doesn't have an opinion about whether you belong. It doesn't care about your gender, your background, your title, who doubted you, who passed you over, or what the room whispered before you walked in. 8 seconds is 8 seconds. And the outliers I've watched succeed in the arena, in the trades, in leadership, are the ones who figured out how to stop trying to win the argument before the gate even opens. And they've started putting everything into the ride itself. So here's what I want to leave you with. Stop trying to win the argument before the gate even opens. Stop building the case for why you belong. Stop managing what the room thinks of you before you've done anything. Put everything into the ride itself. Your results are your case. Not your argument, not your credentials, not how well you manage the room's perception of you. 23% improvement in fleet availability. The first win on the 29th start. Golden Tempo went from dead last to the winner's circle at the Kentucky Derby. None of those things happened because someone gave permission first. They happened because somebody kept riding. Now, there's one more thing that I want to tell you about the bull that I need you to know. We know it doesn't just not care about your credentials, but also realize it doesn't care about your doubts either. The people who told you that you didn't belong, the room that went quiet when you walked in, that performance review that moved the goalposts, the idea that got credited to somebody else, the bull doesn't know any of that happened. And for 8 seconds, you don't have to carry it. You just ride. That's what the arena gave me that nothing else could have ever taught. Not the trophies, not the buckles. The 8 seconds where none of the noise outside of the rails existed. Just me and the bull and whether I could hold on. Now, every time you walk into a room where someone has already decided what you are before you even speak, that's your shoot. And when that gate opens, ride. If you want to figure out whether you're naturally leading with your iron or your instinct and how to use both, the Iron and Instinct Self-Assessment is free at the8secondlife.com. 5 minutes is all it takes. The link is in the description. I will see you soon. Thank you, everybody. I'm Shar. Stay in the middle.